Hi, welcome to Pictures, Noise and Words. I'm Hedgie, and this is Xentrix, a song called 7 Words, which is the title track off their new album, which Charles can't see, but it's here, honest. This is their new album that's coming out. I should have looked it up, didn't, as usual. It's coming out at some point. There you go. No problem, Xentrix. I'm on your side. Now, actually, it's out. What am I talking about? The album's out. This song's been out since last October. I'm an idiot. I'm so used to things being in the future. I'm so used to songs coming and the album's not out. This is all out. You know how I know this is all out? I've got this album. It just mind gone blank. I went into my spiel and just confused myself.
I'm guessing the place to go to get it is Bandcamp.
You know, it's funny you should say that. I've no idea. Where did I get it from? Doesn't matter. You go and look for this, and you'll find it. This has been my usual service of no research and total confusion. So, people out there in internet land, Xentrix. I've got a funny crackling noise in my ear. And I don't know if it's me.
Not me, I swear.
Or whether it's gone. I don't know whether that was whether anything recorded that crackling. Anyway, if there's a crackling noise, as far as I can tell, it's gone. Right. So yes, I'll point up here. So Charles is over here, and the album's up here. Right. Yeah, I've definitely got a weird noise. I'm going to choose to ignore it. So Xentrix. God, I'll get going eventually. Don't worry, Xentrix. It's coming. It's coming. I've known about Xentrix from their very inception. Right back in the very, very early... Wow, what could have been? It's like 89, 90 kind of time. When my wife randomly bought their first album called Shattered Existence. And she went, oh, listen to this. And at the time, it was for its day, it was quite a blast of raw thrash, you know, from the days when thrash was thrash. And it was great. And they continued to release great albums. And they were being sort of hailed at the time as like the British Metallica, from when Metallica did thrash as well, you know, because we're talking Ride the Lightning kind of days, aren't we here? Way back. And they were kind of being touted at the time as like the British Metallica, and for some reason, it didn't work out. And they went away for a long time. And then they came back, and this is their second album with their new singer. They changed their singer. The old singer had quite a sort of distinctive voice, and this singer, he says, pointing in the wrong direction, the video or the album, nails it, to be honest. Absolutely kills it. So, and this new song off this new album, which is out already, I played just the intro before it even got to the singing to my wife. And I said, who's this? And she went, sounds like Xentrix. Literally like within 30 seconds or something. That's how they do have a sound of their own. But they are, at the end of the day, a thrash band. And I chose this because I know that Charles loves thrash bands.
I do love
So, and I have done Xentrix on the channel before. This is not going to be objective at all. I've seen Xentrix play live lots of times. I've got all of their albums, including this one that I've forgotten I bought. And I've seen them live in concert halls, and I once saw them live in a tent in a park, like a country show. Whoever booked them in 1992, or whenever it was, didn't know who they were booking, I don't think. because you were just in this lovely... Someone's selling jam over there, and somebody's got the dog show going on over there, and suddenly in this tent, Xentrix come on and like give it sort of full beans, basically. So, yeah.
That was like out of Spinal Tap?
Yeah, basically. It was an experience. It was an experience, yeah. I can imagine the Marmalade stall next door going, what on earth is happening in that tent? So... whether Xentrix will remember that, I don't know. Anyway, so all of that said, sorry, Charles, you haven't got a word in.
No, that's fine. I heard thrash. I'm good.
Yeah. So should we just jump straight in and then then we'll have something to talk about?
Let's thrash away.
Okay. That doesn't sound right, but okay.
Let's thrash about.
I'm not sure where to go with that one. Oh, so I have to do the 3, 2, 1 thing, which I very nearly clicked to go then. So are you good to go? Because Charles has got to play it separately at his end. Of course, he can't see what I'm playing. Does that make sense?
And I'm used to drummers counting me in. So
1, 2, 5. Right. Okay. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Controlled and policed. The latest message complete. With the next move, all is pointless. Another system untied. Devolved and old and defied. These words are last and goodbye. It's not for me, it's not for me. Say it for the lost, say it in repast. Say it as a reckoning. Screaming as a final warning. Say your words no more, not one for all, it's one for one. For the worst you know that shit to come. It's only 7 words of war. The end of this has just begun. 7 words, no love lost. Bring me that chaos. The call that's hard to resist is the one to false reminisce. This feeling's hard to dismiss. With the next move, it's so pointless. Submit and fall or depart. Do you help your world fall apart? Impulsive state of the art. Don't cry for me, I'm not falling. Say it for the lost, say it in report. Say it as a reckoning. Scream it as a final warning. Say your words no more, not one for all, it's one for one. Say them for the worst you know that it's to come. It's only 7 words of war, the end of this has just begun. 7 words, no love lost. Bring me that chaos.
Oh my gosh.
Take that.
That was fantastic.
And that was absolutely typical Xentrix. I mean, that was...
Wow.
You would recognize that as a Xentrix song from 1,000 yards away. It's just...
Oh, man.
It's fairly simple. No offense, Xentrix. Uncompromising. thrash metal.
Oh,
It, it,
that,
it,
that was right in my wheelhouse.
yes, so that's the title track off their new album, called Seven Words. Funnily enough, that key change that they have, which is so well placed, it just accelerates the song. You literally go key change, and it's like the album it's as if the album takes like a step forward. The song rather takes a step forward at that point.
Right.
So like I say, I'm not objective. I'm predisposed to like this. This is one of my favorite bands. So because I guess because it means something to me, because kind of this is like one of the first bands that my wife and I, before she was my wife, sort of connected over when it came to metal. Because when I met my wife, she'll hate me. She was a big Barry Manilow fan.
Oh my God.
And then and then I got her to buy Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden, and then that was the end. Well, she's still a Barry Manilow fan. That's not fair, but because that's kind of. But yeah.
If I try to connect with my wife on music, it's Chinese traditional music.
Right.
She doesn't understand this stuff at all, but she says, go do your thing.
Yeah, go and do your whatever it is, that noisy thing.
Well, I know I have a whole back catalog to go through because they are fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, and if you go right back to the beginning of something like Shattered Existence album, which is their first album, it's such a raw version, and I seem to remember them saying it was recorded by them just playing the songs in a studio, and recording it, kind of thing, and it sounds so good. It sounds raw, but it sounds great. However, I've got my rose-tinted spectacles on for looking back for a long time, 30 years, or whatever it is. So, this is what I like about production now, is that bands from the past can still play roughly what they were playing before, but with all this nice modern production. So the sort of 1988, 1989 muddiness of whatever you could afford production-wise has gone away mostly. I think there's not a great excuse for having bad production these days.
No, and of course back then we didn't. I mean, at least I didn't. You have a sharper ear than I do, but I didn't know it was bad production back then. It was just, what it was.
Whatever you get. Yeah.
Right.
And of course it was also filtered through, one, being on vinyl, which I do not think is a good format, and two, through whatever you were playing on. And then quite often recorded onto a cassette tape and played through, again, whatever thing you had to play the cassette tape on. So no matter how good their production was, the user was until I work in IT. The customer could quite easily screw it up. But now everything's, the chances are you're playing it on something that can play it well, even if it's your iPod. And everyone's got reasonably good headphones and yada yada. And car hi-fi's come on so much.
That's right.
When Xentrix were putting out albums at the beginning, you didn't really you got a car radio, and if you wanted anything better, it was an aftermarket thing, wasn't it? And now, more or less any modern car has good speakers in it, good enough.
That's right.
But Xentrix they do some slower songs and things. I mean, if you do look in their back catalogue, you're going to end up at an album called Kin, and there are some very slow, sort of heartfelt songs on that. They kind of went a bit posh on that album, shall I say, with their sort of what they were doing.
I'm sure their fans were a little taken aback by that.
I loved it, to be honest, because but yeah, not everyone's. But it did have thrash songs on as well, absolutely. And then there's an album in between the first and that one called For Whose Advantage, and that was the point when because the Shattered Existence didn't hit it big off that, but For Whose Advantage they did, and then they did. Poof, suddenly they were all over like the magazines and the things of the day.
Well, you can tell by seeing them in the video, they're not in their 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're still chalking out this stuff, you know, and it is mostly still the original band.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And they're from just up the road from where I live. So I've seen them in the native town of Preston, in the Preston Guild Hall in the 90s, and it was just like, wow, Xentrix are playing the Guild Hall. That's amazing. You know, it was a sort of this biggish venue. But then Paz saw them in Preston last week.
Oh my gosh!
And I missed it. Yeah, you know, and he said they were amazing. So it's just, I'm as you can see, this is just my excitement for a band I love. But it's great. It's great. It's a thrash song, isn't it? It's exactly what you want from your thrash.
Exactly what I want. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I do know what's amazing is when they do shows now, the marmalade seller still travels with them.
Yeah,
from the fair.
That's right. When you go to the merchandise stall, they're still there. Some marmalade, love.
So let me ask you. You're a drummer.
I can play the drums. That's not. Doesn't make me a drummer. Go on.
It seems to me that a lot of what makes a song thrash is the drum beat.
Yes, there is a very
there's a very specific thrash drum beat.
Yes, it's more of a drum. It's more of a time thing than the beat necessarily. It's more they tend to be played at a certain BPM, and that will make it feel like a thrash. But also, tends to be less double bassing going on. So you might put in the odd double or whatever, but mostly it's one. It's kind of thing.
That's the one. That's very thrash. You know, that's what when I hear that drum beat, I was like, oh, thrash.
Yes.
And then because the guitar patterns follow that beat. There's
the thrash sound, and like I say, it doesn't have to be played at that particular BPM, but there is a certain BPM where it all slots in, and your brain will go thrash.
Yeah, exactly.
And the drum patterns kind of follow a thrash genre type of drum pattern as well. So
maybe it's the drum pattern I'm thinking of most, and there's
So Mike Portnoy is never going to play in a thrash band, you know, because it's too tricky. That doesn't mean to say thrash is easy. And there are thrash bands that do have lots of double bass, and they can still sound like thrash bands. But I think that traditional thrash sound that you're talking about is more of a single pedal kind of.
Yes. And true thrash vocals, I love them because they're not what you would really call clean, but they're not death metal.
No, they're just sort of kind of more angry than sort of angry, shouty singing rather than growling.
That's right. And it's that strikes me just right.
Right.
I mean, you can understand everything they say, but it's certainly not, la di da.
Well, this singer sings like someone from the north of England, basically. So he's got a fairly blunt delivery to his vocals, which is great. So he doesn't sing long notes. He doesn't. He's just like, I'm just telling you how it is, you know.
Yeah.
You will listen to me, and I'll do his thing, and we're about to blunt. That's it. That's it. If I could sing thrash, that's probably how I would sound, because he's from just up the road from where I live, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Except I can't.
And it all fits that pattern. You know what you were saying about the pattern. The drum pattern, and the guitar following it, and the singing, ba 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 ba. It all follows that pattern. That I just love it. I just love that.
Yeah, the thing's kind of designed to be a punch in the face, but not in the way that extreme bands are. Extreme bands come across, they're more like a juggernaut of sound that blast you to bits. Whereas these are it's just more sort of, wow, it's hard to put sounds and feelings into words, isn't it? But this is more, It's just more blunt and more less all-encompassing. It's more like having somebody telling you rather than a big all-encompassing wall of sound that crushes you and just, carries you along on a wave of extreme noise, which we all love as well. But this is, I think thrash always feels like someone is talking to you about, about the thing I want to talk about, sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it sort of feels more personal, this kind of thrash.
Well, and the other thing I like about thrash guitar,
people watching this are going, "What's he talking about? This is nonsense."
The melodies are something you can actually sing. Like people air drum. People sing guitar pieces.
This is the stuff you can sing when you don't know the words.
That's exactly right. It's like every Metallica song, right? You can sing, who can't sing the guitar pattern of Master of Puppets? And that's what I love about thrash. It's certainly not a soft melody, and it's not a lilting melody, but it's a melody that you can actually sing out and follow, and it sticks in your head as a real song.
And yet, for everything we've just said, I can recognize a Xentrix song from a mile away. So for all of that fitting into the thrash genre and following the tropes of thrash and whatever, I can still hear a Xentrix song.
Yeah,
and it sounds like Xentrix. So and I think that's quite a trick, because you're embedded in a very well-known genre. So how do you sound unique, or whatever word you want to use? But I say, I genuinely played. I said, because oh my god, new song, Xentrix, new album, yay! And said to my wife, "Who's this?" And she couldn't see it or anything like that. And before he got to the singing, she said, "Sounds like Xentrix." So it must be to do with their guitar sound. It must be to do with their kind of the melodies they tend to write. You've got, they do have, the drummer does have, and this is going against everything that I just said 5 minutes ago, does have a style, without a doubt. And if you know Xentrix, you'll be able to hear Dennis Gasser playing the drums. You can hear it. You go, I know what that is. And on their earlier stuff, and especially I think on Kin, which was that posher album they did, posh is a word that travels, doesn't it? Posh is a word that travels. Is it not?
Well, I mean, it's known, but I've never heard anybody in the United States say posh.
Oh, okay. So more upmarkets, more attention to detail given to it, a more expensively produced thing. Sorry, I forget that not everyone in the world speaks English,
especially in the United States.
No offense. Yeah, you said groceries earlier to me, and I thought, and it triggered a thing. We never say that word. Anyway, it wasn't in this video. I mean, we were just talking earlier, and you said groceries, and I just thought, oh yeah, I know exactly what groceries are, of course, and all of that sort of thing. And groceries is a word that's used in the UK, but nobody says I'm going grocery shopping. They just say I'm going shopping, and it just means the same thing. But no, that's not important right now. What was I saying? Yes. So, what was I saying? I've lost my thread.
Oh. Him
in Kin, yeah, the more posh album, you can hear it sort of clearly the drummer's uniqueness. That's definitely a word. So somehow, like I say, while being embedded in a very well-known genre, that you can hear this is thrash, Xentrix sound like themselves, and that's not just my opinion. That If Paz was here, he would totally agree with me. And like I said, my wife spotted the Xentrix sound, and she probably hasn't heard Xentrix for years. There's a fair chance she hasn't heard them for years. And,
and that's true of all the best thrash bands. You could
probably pick
hear something like, oh, that's Megadeth.
Yeah.
Metallica.
Yeah. And but how many thrash bands are there, and how many could you pick out at 100 yards? From listening to them to get your own sound in amongst all of that, I think is probably, I'd say difficult, but that's like somebody purposely went out and made their own sound. I think it's one of those things that you're lucky to have that You can't say let's make our unique sound and all get together and make one, can you? It has to be something that in the songwriting and in the playing and in the probably in the production even that gives you your sound. You know, what guitar sound do I want? What drum sound do I want?
That's right. And with these older bands, which again, these guys don't look like kids. You know, this was early enough in the genre where they weren't saying, "Oh, let's copy that genre." You could tell it was just a sound that they really liked.
Yeah, and they're playing something fast and furious basically at the time.
Yeah.
You know, that your Flesh God Apocalypses didn't exist in about 1990, so you are like, wow, this stuff's really, you know, this is fast and this is hard and heavy, and now it's just a thrash band, but they're just great. So there you go.
Yeah.
Did I have I said that enough? I really quite like Xentrix, and
I do too now.
and I have done them on the channel before.
That's right. I do remember you doing them on the channel before, and I do remember also being extremely impressed with them.
I wear my Xentrix t-shirt fairly often as well, that Paz bought for me, as it happens.
I'll have to get one. For now, I only have the pictures, noise, and words.
I know, look at this, everyone. Look, he's got a t-shirt. Look at that. If you all want one, you can't get one, because there aren't any.
No, you have to be a guest on the show. The producer gave me this.
Did he? Wish he'd give me one. Yeah, that is special. So yeah, there you go. I've run out of words. I don't even know how much I even spoke about them, other than to say yay.
I'm off to buy a back catalog.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, you know, sometimes you think, right, yeah, don't go back right to the beginning because they weren't, you know, because you're going to hear something that isn't them. But in this case, yeah, go right back to the beginning and start.
Right.
Just start there. But
Right.
be prepared for that first album to be obviously a bit raw. a bit.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see the evolution too.
Yeah. And of course, this is thrash in the modern world, as it were, whereas then it was thrash when thrash was all over the place, you know.
When thrash was king.
Yeah, and you got bands like Forbidden, which is just an amazing band. That were never like, they were not the Metallicas of the world, but Forbidden were fantastic, and there was a lot of thrash about, proper thrash as I call it. I've never been a party thrash fan. I never liked Anthrax. I'm not saying I didn't like anything they did. Of course, there's like the odd song that you go, oh, I like that, and it was by Anthrax, but I never liked that sort of party thrash kind of sound with the backward cap and the.
You didn't have your extra long shorts and your trainers.
No, it wasn't me, and sort of jumping around the in front when you go to see a gig, and them going around in a circle with their hands held behind their back. Doing their thrash thing.
My God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know. And at the time, I was like, "Nah, it's not for me." But stuff like Xentrix and Metallica and Forbidden and etc. and you know, Megadeth and that sort of thing. And Testament, where obviously they were a thrash band back in those days. You could argue they still are, but they went a bit death metal actually in later years. But I think they've come back a little bit now. Anyway, it's not about them. So yeah, I love this sort of thing, as I may have mentioned once or twice. Anyway, so everyone go out and buy this album. He says, trying to point in the right direction.
Which may or may not be on Bandcamp.
Which may or may not be on Bandcamp, but certainly will be somewhere. That's narrowed it down, isn't it? I wonder if there's a link to say where you can get it. You know what? You're not going to have any problems finding it, are you? Let's face it. You could probably buy it on Amazon. This isn't some band that's been out for like 2 weeks. These guys have been around for a long time. There's a chance you can buy it in all reputable and disreputable record emporiums. So, yeah, I think I've done enough now. I think I've said enough. So,
I'm thrilled.
Remains for me to do that wrap-up thing where I go, I'll see you soon. Let me know what you think. Oh, actually, am I supposed to say subscribe and click the bell and all those sorts of things? Because everyone else on the internet seems to.
That's beneath you, so I'll say it for you.
Okay.
Click the like button and subscribe, and click the bell so that you know when new videos are being released.
Because I would say I would never ask you to do that. Nobody watches this far. Whenever I say that, someone always comments, I watched this far. So, yes, we'll see you soon. Both of us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.